I'm happy to introduce my friend Bill Lucas to this evening. And as you probably know, Western New York is one of the epicenters of the Amish, especially here in Chautauqua County. He's traveled extensively over the last 40 years with Amish, and they don't go just to the train station in Buffalo. Sometimes they go out into the Midwest. Sometimes they go down into the Carolinas, Virginia, and so on. So he's goes all over. And I posted actually a very interesting. Just Googled it and got it on the internet. Amish life. And it is online. And this is a short story about Bill taking a group of Amish to New York City, especially Staten Island. Do they have some people there that they were looking?
We actually stayed in Staten Island. It's hard to park with a 15-passenger van in Manhattan.
Right.
So, and the Staten Island ferry is still free.
That's right. You
so,
can go to the Statue of Liberty and all sorts of things. So, and it's illustrated a bit and also some text. So you might want to check that out. And he's documented many of his connections, observation, and experiences, and he's going to talk about those tonight. But Bill is also an excellent photographer. In fact, he was in the Air Force? No.
Army.
Army, excuse me. All right. Yeah, we're in the Veterans Memorial Room here. Okay. He was in the Army, and he was a photographer in the Army, and so he has been, I think, as a professional photographer ever since. He is lives in Westfield. He's lived in a number of places in this region and area, and he's originally from Jamestown. So, Bill, turn it over to you.
Thanks for the introduction, Ken. Thank all of you. Thanks everybody for being here. It's a great attendance, and I know how rainy it's been today, and it's really nice of you to come out. And it's interesting when you talk about the Amish. It is something that you can talk about the history. You can talk about family life. You can talk about barn raising. Cooperation, and it means a lot to us as English as well, because we see the inner cooperation and the help that Amish give each other, and it's something that I think helped America grow with all of us. At one time, a farmer's barn burnt down, English say, the other farmers were there to help them. If somebody got sick, they were there with their harvesters or whatever to help out. And that was something that I think helped grow this country. And I think all of us with our extended families in different places all over the country, we miss that. We miss that closeness. We miss that interaction and the idea that demonstratively people care about us. And they show it when they show up to help at not just the good times, to help us have a good time, but also the tough times that we have. So it's something that sometimes is missing in America. Now, not that it's all disappeared, because it's still here. But I'm not a jokester, but this is an actual authentic Amish joke. So I'm gonna have to spring it on you. Indulge me, but I love the name. A friend of mine, actually in the Sugar Grove settlement. I don't usually name a lot of names when I'm talking with the Amish specific, but I love his name. It's Valentine Petersheim. It's just got a nice sound to it, so it's a great name. So this is Valentine Petersheim's Amish joke. So Mommy and Dottie, which we have two of them here. Mommy and Dottie. When we think of mommy as English, we think of mom, or Dottie as dad. Well, Mommy and Dottie in German, the kids refer to their grandmother and their grandfather as Mommy and Dottie. So I need to preface the joke with that bit. But Mommy and Dottie, they lived in a settlement that happened to be near an airport, and they'd go by the buggy when they go by from shopping or whatever. They'd go by with their buggy, and the airport entrance was there. And they went by one day, and Dottie got excited. He goes, you know, I wonder what it would be like to fly. I've always wondered about that, to see the earth from up in the sky. And then he said, look, the sign, it's on sale. It's only $10 for airplane ride. And Mommy goes, well, you just forget it. We got better things to spend our money on. $10 is $10. So Dottie's disappointed, and horse trots on home. So they come by the next day, and Dottie thought, well, I'm going to try this again. And still, the airplane ride's $10. So he gets out of the buggy, and because there's a guy by the sign, and goes up to him and goes, have you ever gone flying? And the guy goes, well, yeah, I'm a pilot. You seem really interested. Why don't you and your wife go? And he said, well, I'd like to, but she doesn't want to spend the money. She keeps telling me the $10 is $10. We got better things to spend money on. So the pilot goes, I'll tell you what I'll do. You want to go so bad? I'll take you both up for free, but if either one of you yells during the flight, then you have to pay me the $10. So he goes back, talks to Mommy, and she goes, okay, so I don't have to hear this again. Let's go. So it's an old two-seater open cockpit airplane, and the pilot takes off, and he goes sideways. He goes upside down, loop-de-loop, and he goes, what is it with you two? I've never lost this bet, not a peep out of you. And Dottie goes, well, I almost yelled when Mommy fell out, but $10 is $10. So that's my Valentine Petersheim joke. So as I told you, I'm not a joke teller, but I don't know. Sometimes I think of that joke and by myself, and I start giggling again. So, you know, there's so much that could be talked about, and I know some folks that have some questions, and I don't know every bit of Amish history and other things, but like Kent said, you know, I've spent about 40 years with the Amish, and I realize there's a lot of differences that a lot of us that don't have a daily contact with the Amish might wonder about. And you know, and I've seen what those differences are. Just to give you a brief history of where the Amish came from. Of course, in Europe, there was a split years ago, I believe in the 1600s. I don't know the exact date, but Jacob Ammon and also Simon Mennel, who was, the churches were together. Well, Jacob Ammon wanted a more conservative approach to the religion, and a big issue between the Mennonites and in the division in the church was the idea of shunning, that type of thing. So there was a division, and I think there were some threats to excommunicate it. It just, they tried to reconcile, but then there was a split. So people are aware we have Mennonites and we have Old Order Amish. So, and even over the years, there were more divisions that took place. One of the things that people wonder about is why were they persecuted? And part of it is because the Amish were part of the Anabaptist movement. There's Reformation going on in the Lutheran Church, and then Amish changed with some of that as well. But the Anabaptist movement basically is the belief that, you know, you don't get baptized at birth. And a lot of times in Europe, the churches, in the Roman Catholic Church, you know, I grew up Catholic, so, you know, you were baptized as soon as being born as possible. You know, that's that particular belief in the Catholic Church. However, The Anabaptists and the Amish didn't believe in that. They thought that somebody should make a conscious and decision as they were older to be baptized and to become Amish. Well, of course, they were persecuted, put in dungeons, put to death, but that's how strongly they believed in not being baptized until somebody could make a grown-up decision about doing that. So that was a big split. That was a big split with, a big reason why the Amish came to America. Of course, William Penn in Pennsylvania was a state that had quite a bit of religious freedom. So by necessity, the Amish really needed to migrate, and I don't believe there's any Amish left in Europe. I do believe there's probably some people that practice pretty conservative Christian religion as the Amish did, but I don't believe there's any Amish settlements. That question's been asked before. One of the things that comes up quite a bit too is the different schisms, the different evolvement the Amish had. I mean, Amish, a lot of people will go to one settlement and see it's completely different. Like, you know, I grew up around the Conewango settlement on Route 62. My grandmother lived in Gowanda, New York, so traveling from Jamestown to Gowanda, that was a route well taken. And of course, the settlement there has been there since about 1948, 49. And just as a side note too, people wonder, how do the Amish settle into an area? A lot of times an area might have depressed farms or people that aren't farming anymore. Land is available where the settlement that they belong to, the families are extended at that point. Land has gotten less available. So a lot of times it's by necessity. So people will look and start a new settlement. I've taken quite a few different Amish people to different places that were looking to start new settlements, and actually indeed did do that. So that's always interesting, but you know, they'll be looking at farms and land that is available and then settle into a new area. Can everybody hear me okay? Am I talking loud enough? Yeah. When I was a sergeant in the Army, sometimes I had to brief 200 troops without a megaphone. So sometimes I might talk too loud, but I just want to make sure. I was very lucky. A friend of my mother's, her father helped the settlement. And I wrote an article for the Post-Journal one time after doing a little bit of sleuthing and history investigation and talking to my mother's friend. But her father moved down to Enon Valley and was working at the railroad in McKeesport, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I was born there.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Okay. So he moved down there, but he wanted to start a small farm. So he went to an auction to buy some equipment. Well, the auctioneer didn't recognize him. He's new to the area and apparently would not take his check. Well, a gentleman named Noah Shetler, he lived there, and he talked to the auctioneer, and I think it was Gerald Clark was able to go ahead and get the equipment that he bid on. So they became friends, and and Gerald Clark was from Conewango originally. So he took Noah Shetler up to Conewango. This is like probably 1947. And drove up here, and they looked at a bunch of farms, and they were like what was called the ward farms. I think there were like 6 farms, and so Noah Shetler bought those farms, and the next thing in like 48, the Amish started moving in. So I called that article that I wrote, that little story, a favor returned, because you know, here they became friends. And then a whole settlement started just because of that friendship, because of that act of kindness. So little things can make a difference in this world. It's always nice. So, but that was an interesting history. But what other reasons, why people move is I think the main reason, like you take a place like Lancaster, land is very expensive there. There's a big population of Amish there, of course, and how many times can you divide up a farm and it still be productive? And of course, they have a lot of crafts and shops there, and gifted people. By the way, just to digress a little bit, it's interesting because while the Amish were being persecuted in Europe, the government was basically primarily the Catholic Church. So if people were not following the dictates and beliefs of the Catholic Church, very often there'd be a lot of problems. One of the ways the Amish did so well, though, because a lot of the landowners who were part of basically the establishment, the government affiliated with the church, looked the other way because the Amish were such good craftsmen with what they built, and they were respected, they were hardworking, they were good farmers, husbandry, all of these things. A lot of the times, the people that could have got them in trouble and turned them in, not that it didn't happen, a lot of the people that, as I said, could have said something and they end up in a dungeon, look the other way. And sometimes I see the craftsmanship and skills and work ethic with the Amish that I know, and I wonder if it, besides the young kids learning different things as they grow up, both boys and girls, if it isn't something that goes back almost genetically transferred, because it was something that at one point meant survival. So I always thought that was an important part of Amish history. And I know some of you have probably quite a few questions, and I'm not going to go on and on, but any questions towards the end, you're welcome to fire away. When I stepped up here, I didn't say V. Gates to a couple of Amish folks that I know and have ridden with me before, and it's nice to see them here. So and I think they're here to make sure I get everything right too. So my own travels with the Amish. I've been a photographer for years, and I've put together exhibits, in respecting Amish. Not all Amish want their photo taken. I understand that, and that question gets asked quite a bit. And so I try to be very respectful as far as that's concerned. But at the same token, too, I try to document Amish life because I think it's important that I understood it more, and I think some people have a lot of misconceptions. I've heard a lot, and it's kind of nice to field some of those as well. But often when I'm on an Amish trip, and very often they'll visit relatives somewhere, or it might be a doctor's appointment, or it could be a lot of different things. Some settlements, will go to look at some interesting places, and all of us humans are curious, so I think it's a natural thing, but I've always had wanderlust ever since I was a little kid, so it's great to have people to share with that. Speaking of which, I'm on an Amish trip one time, and we're going to go look at these fancy horses in Indiana at some auction, and there's these talented Mexican guys that riding these horses, and they're dancing, all this stuff. But on the way, Bonnie, my significant other, and she gave me a lot of help setting things up, so thank you for doing that. But on the way, she's sitting behind me, and a good friend of mine from Sherman and Clymer, he's sitting next to her, and then somebody else was sitting in the front seat, and so I hadn't talked to Bonnie. It was kind of quiet back there, so I reached behind my driver's seat and I give her hand a little squeeze, and I'm thinking, her hand's awfully rough. And sure enough, I grabbed Ray's hand, So ever since that, he's been calling me sugar. And I worry about that too, but is that a true story?
It's a true story.
So I'm sorry I had to digress on that. It just occurred to me. And I don't know, it's kind of funny though, picking up the phone or calling somebody Amish, or he calls me about something and he says, "Is this sugar?" Oh, yeah. So anyway, you know, one of the things that I was talking a little bit earlier about the Amish and how they evolved from Mennonites, but even within the Amish communities and Amish belief, you know, they have something called the Ordnung, and I don't know if I pronounced that right, but which basically is, you know, guidelines that the churches follow in their belief, and of course, you know, Christian beliefs. So, and that goes back a long, long time, that does. So, but I talked about schisms within even the Amish community. So now, you know, even now, I mean, you have different types of Amish community. Of course, Old Order Amish, but even within Old Order Amish, you can have beachy Amish, peachy Amish, you know, and they have sometimes not so subtle beliefs, but that are different. And then you have really ultra conservative Amish called Schwarzentruber Amish. You know, often they're the ones that are getting in trouble because they won't wear a fluorescent triangle in the back of their buggies, and because, you know, that's considered that bright color kind of fancy. So that's, you know, that's something that, so even though the different groups are considered Old Order. Yes, sir?
I just wanted to know where in the spectrum of conservative to less conservative does the Amish community in Chautauqua County fall in?
Would you do me a favor, and you know, I'll be the first to call on you right after I'm done, and then please ask that same question, you know? Yeah, and like I said, I'm not an expert because I've had some experience, you know. I said traveling with the Amish 40 years, and I try to be observant and understanding, but I also understand that there are a lot of difference. There can be some minor difference in one settlement. Settlements are made up of church districts, you know, and there can even be little subtle differences in the same settlement between church districts. So that's and depending how many people are living in a settlement, it generally is how many church districts that there are. So you know, there's a lot of it's tough to say this is the way the Amish are, because, you know, like all of us, we all have differences. You know, we can go to the same church even, and even within one church, there might be kind of a conservative section, or there might be more of a liberal section. So there's, you know, you understand the differences. And look at all the different types of, you know, Christian churches, and Baptist, Presbyterian, you know, there's just all kinds of differences. So there are differences with the Amish, and also too, if the Amish, if somebody doesn't find that in their church things are not exactly like they like, there's always a chance to, like I said, I've taken people to new settlements, and I don't know what the motivation is, but sometimes people want to maybe start a more conservative church, or have different rules, and you know, there is freedom to move. But, you know, that's tough too, because they probably have a lot of friends and relatives in the settlement that they are. So, you know, picking up and leaving is not easy, especially if you go to another state. That's a long buggy ride, but that's where I come in with my 15-passenger van, I guess. But is there, I was going to say, you had a question?
Oh, earlier? Oh, yeah, I was asking from more conservative to more liberal, where does the Amish community in Chautauqua County generally fall?
Well, in Chautauqua County, and then close by in Cattaraugus County, with Conewango, quite a bit of difference. And even, Mayville, Sherman and Clymer settlement, they came here right around the blizzard of '77, if I think that's right, about the worst time to make a move, to move in, but they did. And they're from Middlefield, Ohio. I'm not going to say that they're liberal, they're old order Amish, but there's a big difference between another settlement that's still using kerosene lanterns and that type of thing. But that's, there is freedom within Amish communities, even though it's all old order Amish. And there's new order Amish as well that actually use computers and things like that. So I don't. Did I answer your question? I mean, yeah. And then you go to Sugar Grove, and of course they're closer to what Conewango is like as far as their rules in their church. And each church can make up their own rules. So, yes.
Did you say that the old order evolved from the Mennonites?
Yeah, the Amish evolved. I mean, at one point, basically they were together, in the same area in Europe. But then there was a schism. Jacob, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Jacob or Jacob, I think it's Jacob Ammon, he wanted a more conservative belief system, including shunning. And that was a big issue of why that schism developed. And they tried to reconcile back and forth because, these are all families that were living together. They tried to reconcile, but ultimately there was a breach between, and that's why it turned into the Mennonites and then the Amish that followed. But as I said too, the Amish, New Amish, Beachy Amish, Peachy, Swartzentruber. So, even within that, like a lot of religions, things evolve for whatever reasons. So.
Where do those names come? Beachy and BG? What are those?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I'm just aware that those Amish, those names were given to them, and that groups of Amish have those names, Beachy and Peachy, and there's some differences between them as well. So, but I'm sorry, I can't answer. Yes.
What's the oldest Amish community in Chautauqua County, and what part of the county the oldest, longest community, where's it located?
Right in Chautauqua County?
Yeah, because you said 1977, you were talking about.
That would be, yeah, Sherman, Clymer, Panama. Right.
How long have Amish people settled within Chautauqua County, and where is the oldest community?
Well, and as I was saying too, some of Conewango Amish are in Chautauqua County, but a lot of them, I think most of the settlements in Cattaraugus County, but and of course they've been here since 48, 49. Outside of here, I don't want to pick on Chris, but do you think Spartansburg maybe?
No, I think Conewango was before Spartanburg. Well, there was a settlement in Spartanburg, and it didn't work out, so they left, and then they restarted in about 70. So I think Conewango is probably about the oldest one that I know of.
And what settlement are you from?
Climate Sherman.
Okay.
One question I get a lot is why do Amish, hire somebody to drive them in a van or a car to go somewhere, and why don't they just have their own? Is it hypocritical? But one of the things that you might consider, that I consider, is that it's a big difference between owning a car and we have to rely on insurance. The Amish are pretty self-contained. They have certain insurance within their own communities. Some settlements do, for like a fire in a house or something. But they don't want to be dependent on an outside, government agency or something like that, or an insurance agency. It's very important to them. So, and plus too, young kids, I'm funny, nobody's asked me about room springer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, what, did you room spring at one time?
No, I'm
No.
not Amish, but I have read about it.
Yeah, but it
That's
could be the
wonderful.
English version.
What is that, Bill?
What's that?
What is that?
Define it.
Oh, define, yeah, Rumspringa. That means basically German for running around. And as I said too, the Anabaptist movement, parents are hoping that their kids are going to make a commitment to become Amish and to live Amish. But there's a period of time where, like all teenagers, where they let loose a little bit. And I'm not talking about being juvenile delinquents, but a lot of the younger folks, they test things just like teenagers do, and I'm sure they really test their parents too, like they have with a lot of us as well. But Rumspringa is part of it, and I think the parents are a little bit more liberal. Not that they approve of some of the things the kids might do, but they're a little more liberal in order to let the kids make up their minds, and when they do make up their minds to be baptized, that it's a commitment that's heartfelt, it's thought out carefully, because it's a lifetime commitment once they decide to become Amish. So a very important decision at that point. So yeah.
How many of them are former Amish? How many do we lose from the community?
How many do what?
How
How many do we
Amish young people never return? in this-
Well, obviously the Amish are growing in population, so more stay than don't. But as far as there are some that don't, and there may be some settlements that.
I just had a question and we get to.
Oh, I'm not done with that one yet.
Okay, well, this, yeah. it
She's
kinda
getting
goes-
in line.
It kind of goes with it, but yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so,
She's a retired RN. Now, you don't want to mess with retired RNs.
Might need her one day.
okay, so they usually make their decision by age 18, correct? Around 18?
Around there,
Around
we're a
there.
little older maybe.
All right, so if they decide not to, are they shunned by the community? Or are they able to come back and forth to see their families and their community?
I'm not knowledgeable every community, but some communities, if they're not baptized, then they haven't really broken the rules. They haven't followed the Ordnung, the churches, because they're not baptized yet. It's nothing that, so it really would depend on which church. I have read that, I don't know specific settlements, but I have read that, that some places will shun young people that if they decide not to be baptized. But, as I said, different settlements have different rules, and different churches, they follow certain guidelines, so.
What happens if,
So, somebody had a question over here too. Yes, sir.
I've heard for years that there's not good feeling between the west side of the lake and the east side of the lake Amish. I've heard for years there's animosity between the west side of the lake Amish and the east side of the lake Amish.
Between who?
East and west.
East and west of the lake. There are communities on the west and the east. They're not
You mean in one district or church district or?
In the county.
in the county.
Oh, in the county.
Around Chautauqua.
I don't know if it's so much an animosity. I know the churches, they do commerce together, because I've taken people from one community settlement that has different rules to another one. A lot of times, though, I think there's not really an animosity, but the one observation I have, with some exception, but say somebody from Sherman and Clymer settlement, typically they wouldn't date somebody in the Conowongo settlement. Not because they dislike anybody in Conowongo, it's just you grow up a certain way and that's what you're used to, you know. And in Sherman and Clymer, the children might grow up a different way, and they're used to different things and ways of doing things than in Conowongo. So, but I don't see it as any kind of animosity, as opposed to just you could almost say like a cultural difference in some respects. But, you know, and like I said, you know, I don't know every relationship back and forth, so there may be some people that maybe they think Sherman Clymer's a little too liberal about certain things, and then they, you know, and then people Sherman Clymer say, well, I really wouldn't want to be old order Amish in Conowongo. So, you know, there's exceptions to every rule is what I'm saying. So, I don't know.
Hartfield people out there, is that Conowongo?
In Hartfield and Mayville you're talking about?
No.
No, that's a different settlement. That's, yeah, they're a different settlement here. Yeah. Yeah.
What's their attitude, their philosophy about electricity?
Okay. Well, electricity, again, you know, going back to that analogy with being dependent on car insurance, an outside agency, you know, electricity, they would be dependent on an outside group, corporation, and the Amish are more insular. They don't want to do that. You know, plus the temptation, you got electric, and then there's a lot of electric devices that you could hook up to, and you know, but some settlements might use generators on the work site, and of course, you know, other ones don't. They'll use the old-fashioned hand tools. So, but they're, you know, it's not hypocritical. It's just people can make their own beliefs and follow their own church beliefs. So, yep.
When I went over to the Eastern States Medal for the first time back in the 1990s,
Well, I'm going to have to come back again. I'm sorry. I'm really going to get it about the hearing aids when I get back tonight.
He said when you went over to Eastern Metals
Yeah.
in the 90s.
early on, they had a very small showroom, and they had a solar panel on top to run their cash register, so they were using that kind of electricity.
Well, I think, you know, I think I can't speak for all the Amish, but, you know, the sun is something I think Amish would believe is God-given, and so that they can use that. So I know Sherman and Clymer does use a lot of solar panel, and on their buggies too. You know, you might notice brighter lights instead of smoky kerosene lanterns on it, and you know, they recharge their batteries, that type of thing. So, you know, that's their community's decision to do that. So I'm sure that could be reversed if it turned into a problem, but that's the way it is. Ma'am, did you have a question?
Just curious, with
Excuse me.
the different communities
Sorry.
that we have and their traditions and whatever precepts they follow, is it written down? Is it passed along traditionally or orally, or?
Well, you know, I was mentioning the ordnung, and that's something that, you know, the different churches follow.
It's fascinating.
I don't know specifically because it's all in German.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I think some communities have like a letter, I call it a letter.
Have a what, Chris?
Like a letter with rules on it, you know, that they read. We have council meetings, you know, twice a year. And they read those rules off to the church.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't, ours is just oral, you know, and sometimes we skip one thing one time, the next time we skip something else. But most of the people, they know the rules. If you're a member of the church for a couple of years, you become aware of the rules, and you shouldn't have to hear them twice a year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Glad you're here.
You know, at one stage, we're about 50 minutes here, and Bonnie, you want to give me help with something here? With you notice that there's a lot of different clothes here, and this isn't so much the style like Sherman and Clymer around here, but these are just to give you an idea that a lot of people think that, you know, Amish clothes are dark blue or black or that type of thing, but you know, if you look at some of these colors here, you know, they're really quite nice. And I'm going to pass these around. You know, I'm really touched with these here. These are little boys, and of course these have buttons on them, but I think that's to have access to the diaper for quick changes. So I could pass that around. But when you look at all the work in that, you can just think that somebody just, a lot of love in this. And you know how fast kids grow up. So somebody did this. Of course, Amish have a lot of kids, so the next one would probably get this as well. But,
Bill, are they self-sufficient to the point of actually making all of their own clothes, sewing and so on?
well, there's some store-bought clothes, you know, jackets and things like that. But you know, a lot of the young girls, they learn sewing from a young age. That's a skill that a lot of them are very good at. Let's see.
What about the safety, though, for those that are farmers and are have cattle or cows? Is there a state regulation that they have, must have something in their barn that they can call out in case there's a fire? What are some of the safety regulations here in the state of New York?
Well, I don't know about the regulations specific to that, but you know, there's a lot of volunteer fire departments. Some of the Amish, like in Mayville or Conewango, Sugar Grove, they would borrow a neighbor's phone. So they'd have to get to a neighbor's phone, you know, or somebody would call that saw what was going on that was a neighbor. So some people, some settlements have they might have a little shack that'll have a phone in that they can use, you know, hardwired. So they would be able to do that. So yes.
Amish a man that worked for me, had it set up so that the phone was in the barn, but there was a little buzzer in the house. So that way he could comply with the rules and by not having the phone in the house, but when the little buzzer went off, he could run out to the barn and answer it.
Yeah, I'm aware of that too. Sometimes they're pretty loud buzzers too.
You know,
I'd have to have a loud buzzer, obviously, but hey, Bonnie, you want to try on here something here?
Try on. Whoa! Did you know you were modeling tonight?
It wasn't in the plan, but you left the stuff here.
Oh, yes, okay.
That's where it is.
Okay, show and tell.
Show and tell. I'm gonna look.
Is that the apron?
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it pinned in the back?
This one, this is
Velcro.
This is Velcro. This way, when I dress men, they don't have to take their pants off and put the Amish pants on. They could just Velcro them.
When you dress men, is there something you should know?
Oh gosh. It's almost over.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, Bonnie. Let me have
Okay, in your settlement, do they use straight pins? The women have to have straight pins on their clothes? Do they? Okay, and the men, do they have straight pins? Why? Why? Okay.
Oh, am I gonna? Oh, gee. Okay, I'm gonna do the whole thing, huh?
It does the hairdo. Oh, I'm not worried about that.
Transformation.
Yeah. Lonnie, I can see you getting out of buggy right now.
Oh, my.
Do I pass?
No, that's
All right, now,
terrible.
questions. Can I, is that all right if I ask you questions, Sue? Okay, I don't want to embarrass you. Now, when you wear this when it's for hot weather? Or when do you wear these? Every day? Year-round to church. All right, so you wear the dark bonnet when you go out? So it's like your dress-up hat. All right. I'm serious. And, what are these?
A shawl goes around over your shoulders.
So the point goes in the back?
Yep. Yeah, let's see. So, okay, because the back has all straight pins, right? So there might be some bearing where you can see some skin, so you have this? Or is this just like a dress up?
Want her to dress you up?
Yeah. Show me. She could probably do a better job than. Sorry about this. Not my effort here. All right. So I'm gonna
Bill,
Is this full?
Bill.
Yes.
that's a sports and trooper hat you got there.
I know it is. I'm trying to give everybody a little taste of everything, Chris. And by the way, my beard's longer than yours. Oh, this way.
Okay.
Swords and trooper hat. He's right, you know. It's very conservative. This is hardly a grand finale, but thank you for indulging.
Oh.
Aw, that's so cute.
I'm thinking we might do a little bundling tonight.
Don't get any ideas. I got my straight pins ready.
Oh, that was good.
Okay.
When the young Amish men get married, then they grow a beard. Yeah, and the beard is grown for life. And you'll notice too, Amish, they don't have a mustache like I do. And I think that is, you know, back in, it's a kind of an Amish are conscientious objectors. So I think that is a anti-military thing, because, you know, a lot back in Germany, you know, they had big mustaches, and that was the style of a lot of the people in the military. So you'll notice that Amish, you know, just have the beard. And does somebody have a question? Or yes, sir.
What is the role of the bishop in the local community? The bishop's role, what role do they play in each community in terms of setting the cultural standards?
Well, the bishops, you know, they're basically in charge of their church in their district, and their church in the settlement is divided up into different church districts. So the bishop would be, you know, the head of that, but that doesn't mean that he's autocratic, you know, makes decisions. I think that's something that, you know, there's also, Chris, if I'm right, ministers and deacons, and I think that, you know, if there's some issues that come up or anything, I don't think it's one person that makes a decision. I think it's they get together and try to sort out the issue. So yeah, I hope that answered. And you know.
Bill, when you say in Europe, can you be a little bit more specific? I've done a little research.
Yeah, Swiss and Germany, you know, Switzerland and
He
Germany.
started out in Zurich, in Switzerland.
Yeah. Mhm.
They would have been speaking Schweizerdeutsch.
You know, it's interesting, and you say that there's still some Amish, Old Order Amish, that still have a dialect in Swiss.
Right.
You know, they speak the German. Anybody else in Old Order can understand, but they, you know, they actually have a bit of an accent too. I've traveled with them before.
When I was just looking into it a little bit, and I think they left Switzerland for the most part and went to the Palatinate in Germany around Frankfurt and so forth. And maybe that's where they then came over to Pennsylvania first. I think it was 1702. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Are there any communities that practice hardcore shunning, I mean, old Amish shunning?
Practice shunning?
Yeah.
I think that's something that I think most places are, most churches are, you know, they're reluctant to do that. Maybe some settlements have shunning easier than another settlement might have, but I think it's something that is taken very seriously. And Chris, I'm sorry to pick on you, but does the Ordnung, does that have certain things to say about shunning specific, that the old order churches could follow that in order to know when it's applicable and when it isn't? Or is it kind of an individual settlement church decision?
A little of both, I think. We've got a booklet with 18 articles of faith. And one of those articles explains who should be shunned and how you should go about shunning a person. I mean, if we shun somebody, we don't just kick them out of the church. You know, they must have done something to, you know, something against the church rules that we feel that they can't be a member of the church. I mean, they were just way out in left field. But that don't mean we just discard them and don't worry about them. But that's to show them, to show the other people that that's not tolerable. You know, we can't have that. And so we try to, you know, we try to get it back, you know, show love and stuff like that, try to get it back. But that's very, the real conservative churches are more apt to take that serious, you know, the shiny thing.
It's nothing that is easily done, I think, in most circumstances. But yeah, and I think it's great too. I mean, somebody, if you don't follow the church's rule, how long would the Amish last? You know, is a small, relatively small part of our society, although there's a lot of Amish, but as a group in our society, surrounded by modern technology in the world, if everybody in that community could go this way, that way, make their own decisions constantly, you know, it would really be disruptive in the Amish community. So I can understand why they have to have some understandable rules. And if somebody, first they're counseled, and if they still break the rules, well, what's going to happen with the next person in the church? Well, this person got away with it. It's going to be an issue with the next person as well. Yeah, the Amish don't have, I'm sure most of you are aware, they don't have a physical church. They have their services in people's homes. A lot of times a shop, you know, with benches. I always know who's having church service because there's a bench wagon that's pulled up before Sunday. And also the Amish don't have church service every Sunday, like, you know, typically outside here, what we might have. They have every other Sunday. And a lot of times the people and even the bishop might go to another settlement and sometimes speak at the other settlement to
I don't have my glasses. Yeah.
just to take a break, you know, from his own area.
Is there a theological reason why they only go every other Sunday, or is it just a matter of convenience?
What's that again?
Is there a theological reason why they only do every other Sunday Mass?
Well, it's a rural community, and if everybody was out of their house for one thing, if everybody was out of their house for one thing, I think it's a certain practical security risk as well. I mean, considering that, you know, yeah, Chris.
The answer to his question about every other Sunday we have services. When, I guess when the Amish started, you know, they lived a long distance away, you know, maybe 10 miles apart. And then they didn't have a horse and buggy like we do. They had maybe a cart or a wagon or something. So it took a long time to travel, and so they decided just to do it every other Sunday instead of every Sunday because it just, you know.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm glad you're here. I might have to take you guys out. Might have to take you guys out to Barney's for ice cream when we leave.
So that just got handed down generation to generation. We can visit other districts, you know, back and forth.
Yes, sir.
Make it interesting.
A couple things.
You're the same creature.
One, if anybody is truly interested in Amish Mennonite history, just outside of Berlin, Ohio, is a museum called Beehole. And that has a very detailed history going back into the 1600s of how the Amish and the Mennonite communities, religions separated, what they had in common, what the differences were. It's like in a big, huge, round building, almost like a huge silo. But it's well worth the trip to Berlin if you are interested in that history. And while I got the floor, a question that I've been asked is, what if someone wants to join the Amish community? And I've never heard a finite answer to that question.
It's happened. I can't give any specific cases really, but I know that has happened. But you know, I mean, there's a lot of, if you haven't grown up Amish, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to acculturate yourself to, and then learning the German language too. You know, you can't be part of a church if you don't understand what's being preached and you know, or the hymns, and so it'd be pretty smart to have all of that. I think up in Michigan years ago, there was actually people that grew up Catholic, a family that they became Amish, and this is years ago that I was up there on a trip. So it does happen. It does happen, but people that are a lot smarter than I am. I know enough German that I usually say a few things like Simma dat, are we there yet? You know, like little kids when they get into a car, first thing they say, 5 minutes later, are we there yet? So I'll say Simma dat, or I'll slip in a few German things. So they think I'm smarter than what I am, and it keeps them from calling me in German an old goat in the back seat. So I keep them honest that way. They don't know how much I understand. So isn't that right, Chris?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you know.
Ken has a question.
Yes. Who did?
Ken had his hand up.
Ken?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, I think German is spoken in church services, and from what I understand, and the Bible is in German. But what the daily speech is Pennsylvania Dutch, or Deutsch, and we call it Dutch. It isn't Dutch at all. And it's quite different. I try to use some of my German, and it's just, you know, it's very different, almost to the point that I don't know linguistically, but I think it's really should be considered a separate language.
The old German, you're right. That's a good point. I had a German years ago, a German exchange student, and I thought it'd be interesting to take him out to Conowongo and, you know, to meet some of the Amish out there, and he could pick up some of it, but not, you know, it is, the old German is quite a bit different. So probably we should get things wrapped up here. I don't want to overstay my welcome here.
Can I have one question?
Yeah, that lady right.
Can I pick on you again? I have a question, because when he put the hat on, you said that was a Schorstentruber hat.
Yeah.
Can you tell the difference by the way the hats are shaped of what community they're from?
Not Well, yeah, kind of the way they're shaped, but a Schwarzenegger hat has a brim, probably 4 inches or 4.5 inches. Yeah, like that.
That's
That's like a real conservative community hat, like that, a white brim,
a Schwarzenegger.
yeah.
Okay, what about is the other one the same way?
Which one?
So if they have a wide brim, you can tell where they're from?
This is,
That's what we call a little boy's hat.
Yeah.
But mine is similar to that up there, like a.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
like a beehive.
The height is about the same with the brim. Is narrow.
Is that
Okay.
just a tradition to each group, or is there a religious?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Thank you.
but I can't thank you all. This is a great turnout here and.